We really tried to make The Strangers feel as based in reality as possible. It definitely felt like this could happen to me.
Why did it stop?
They're fucking with us.
The audience goes on this journey with the character, and there is real transformation.
There's a mystery baked into it. You know, who are these strangers?
We turn the screws all the time and make it more and more tense.
Let it go now!
This is a really epic journey of survival.
Why are you doing this to us? Because you're here.
A friend of mine happened upon the rights to The Strangers and called me up, and I said, I'm not sure you want to remake a movie like The Strangers, which is so beloved by horror fans and has a real following behind it. And I thought about it, and I said, I think there's a bigger story to be told, but in order to tell it, we have to go back to the beginning.
My good friend Courtney Solomon said, well, do you remember this awesome cult classic horror movie called The Strangers? I said, do I remember The Strangers? I mean, it's one of my favorite horror films ever. And he said, well, they are planning to do a remake of it, and not just a remake, but a trilogy.
Courtney Solomon, my producing partner, really was the point guy for this entire concept and the execution of it. What really excited me was the challenge of doing 3 films at one time that was really unique and interesting.
Courtney Solomon, Alan Cohen, and Alan Friedland. They started, all 3 of them, brainstorming how faithful do you stay to the first one, but then how do you expand it and still keep audiences in it?
Writing the first movie of the trilogy, everything that you put in that has to have a purpose in the next 2. So we're putting characters in, laying seeds. Is this character one of the masked strangers, or is it just somebody they happen to come in contact with?
There are people that carry across all 3 movies that you get to know. And there are people, even if they're only in one movie, they have a big role within that movie and serve the story for that movie.
Everything that the characters say to each other has some sort of payoff. Even the characters that they're talking to on the phone end up showing up later on.
What bumblefuck town are you guys in now?
Venus, Oregon. We're having a good time.
When I was sent the script for The Strangers, I was so thrilled because it stuck with me. Like Freddy, Jason, those are all incredible films, but I don't really think that could actually happen to me. But The Strangers, it definitely felt like this could really happen.
We wanted to stay true, obviously, to the original. And what was so absolutely disturbing and terrifying about it, and that is that it can happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time.
What I've learned from my experience doing sequels like I did Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and I did Die Hard 2, the term that I like to use is replicating the experience. You owe the audience that experience of the original movie in a sense that that's what they fell in love with. You're giving them the same feeling, but in a new package.
What does Scarecrow have to do to kill him?
What I love about our reinterpretation of the first one is if you look at it, there's still all those little hints that date back to the original, whether it's the iconic truck, whether it's the 2 little boys on the bicycle.
Are you serious?
Aren't we all?
The audience and the fans will definitely recognize all of those Easter eggs, but differently and reimagined.
The first movie is the jumping off point, and you could call it a reboot of the original Strangers. So for those fans who love the original, the first movie is a home invasion movie, and it will remind them of why they loved that movie in the first place.
She was on her way to interview for a top Portland architectural firm when her GPS failed.
She is, however, survived by her boyfriend Ryan.
What? No?
Yeah, sorry, babe, I had to eat your remains.
Sorry, the first film is about a young couple, Maya and Ryan, who are going out to Oregon.
Maya and Ryan were lifelong New Yorkers, and she wanted to get out of the big city. The ironic, I want to get away from all the crime and violence of New York.
Venus, Oregon, population 468.
Maya is whip smart, and she is on this journey to be interviewed for a new architectural job in Portland. And she's in a really loving and supportive relationship with Ryan and has got kind of like the world at her feet until she's placed into a circumstance that nobody would ever want to be placed into.
They go into a little diner to have something to eat. When they come back out, the car won't start. They have to stay overnight because he has to get a part to fit the car. There's an Airbnb, and so that's where they end up staying. And then that sets up the terrorizing by the strangers.
Is Tamara here? That was weird.
I think that the goal is the audiences will watch the movie and go, I am riding along with Maya in this movie.
She's very much a glass half full person, and she's the type of person that doesn't ever want to hurt or harm another living being.
Do you hear that?
Hear what?
The silence.
As we go through the trilogy, she's on an arc, on a transformation.
In the beginning of the first movie, you would never believe that this wonderful young woman with a bright, beautiful life ahead of her could be doing in a matter of 2 days.
Some of the coolest things about Maya is very quickly you see how adaptable she is, and you watch this flame kick on inside of her and this survival instinct kick in.
Cut. Very good.
The movie rests on the shoulders of the Maya character. If you didn't have the right person playing that role that actually was willing to go all in all ways, there's no way this would even have a chance to work. So we needed somebody that could pull it off.
I got sent this behemoth of a script, and I thought it was so ballsy that I was like, fuck it, I'm in, let's go, we ball today. So I picked it up, I read it all within like 3 days, and I knew it was for me.
Courtney and I had a lot of these Zoom calls with actors all over the world. And of course, we knew about Mads, we had seen her work and knew her reputation, but still we had no idea if she is exactly the right fit for the role.
I sat with Courtney and Rennie for about an hour and a half, and we talked in detail about who Maya is, what her journey looks like, what I think I could bring to the character. And Rennie and Courtney said, we're looking for our third partner in this. And that allowed me to feel comfortable in sharing my opinions on this thing. And I was like, this is where I think it's really strong. This is where I see Maya going. This is where I feel like some of her reactions to things aren't necessarily authentic to maybe where she would be in the story.
She had this notebook and she actually showed us and flipped through a bunch of the pages. She's like, I made some notes. Had to be like 21 pages of notes, full pages of notes and ideas and thoughts.
I've never been so ballsy in a meeting, being like, I've heard you guys have done a lot of meetings. What didn't go right in those, and what can I do to prove to you that this is mine?
We saw the fire in her eyes, we saw the intelligence, we saw the confidence, we saw the sort of inner softness and sense of humor. And Courtney and I just sort of looked at each other and we were like, oh my God, we have found the girl.
What a cool little town.
The town in our story plays a very integral part to everything. That's the setting of the drama and the characters and the horror. A little town that on the surface seems completely normal, and yet you just get a feeling like you're in the wrong place at the wrong time and it's not gonna end well.
Oh my God, it's their anniversary.
Ours too.
How long have you guys been married?
We're not married. We've just been dating for 5 years.
When Maya and Ryan arrive in town, they're outsiders. The waitresses in the diner, the people who are dining in may seem very nice, but you can tell there's something a little bit off about them.
5 years, and you ain't put a ring on her finger? The hell are you waiting for?
Well, right now I'm just waiting on my turkey melt.
What I wanted to get into these scripts was, you're in this town, all these people could be the masked strangers. You just don't know who it is.
I'm off in like 10 minutes. I can drive you. I live out that way. That's so kind of you. Thank you. Yeah. Good tippers, good karma, right?
The interesting dilemma really in these movies is, who are the strangers? The natural instinct for the audience is to say that the strangers are the strange people in masks. But then the question is, when you go to somebody's environment, are you the stranger?
Maybe in the end it applies to both. If you're not from this small town, if you haven't lived the traumas that they've lived, they're strangers to each other.
He was some big corporate finance guy. Passed through. Ate here, actually, and then totally disappeared.
Hope we didn't have the turkey melt.
He did.
It's a small town that used to thrive. They had, you know, a factory, and when that goes away, the income stream goes away, and there's a resentment towards people coming off the highway in a $70,000 BMW SUV. Even though people don't mean anything by it, there's just this sort of stark reminder of somewhere out there, there are forces that took away what we had.
It's like a lot of American small towns where it just kind of exists in this world that might feel very unfamiliar to someone like Ryan, who very much grew up in a massive city. He's a New Yorker through and through.
No, this is a scam. I saw you watching us.
Will you excuse us for 1 second, please? Ryan, what's wrong with you? These people aren't scamming us.
You just think this is a coincidence.
I think Maya might be the optimist to Ryan's pessimist. He assumes the worst and she assumes the best, but he knows that something is off. And he can kind of smell that in a way that Maya isn't able to at the very beginning.
Please, stop being paranoid.
Please stop being naive.
You know what, Rudy? That sounds great. We appreciate it. Thanks.
The most important thing between Maya and Ryan was that their love was really obvious kind of from the jump.
What are you thinking?
I am thinking about how that greasy motherfucker Rudy better have my car in by tomorrow.
Wow, I am so turned on right now.
Oh, yeah?
There's like this really beautiful vulnerability that both Maya and Ryan have with each other. And I think that's what makes you want to root for them and what makes the whole thing so much more tragic and horrifying.
We need to move.
Ryan and Maya really lean on each other, and I think that has mirrored my dynamic with Mads throughout the shoot. I think it kind of shows through in the performances.
Then we fall on our asses, and then...
I'll be freaked out. I won't have to. Hands kicked, right?
Mads and I are finding the character and finding the dynamic of the relationship.
I think I know the state motto now. It's better in Oregon.
The scene on the couch is pre the strangers showing up, and you really get a taste of their dynamic. I remember sitting there with Froy and we were working on the dialogue, and it just felt so natural.
For the next first time on this, it's so strange.
Oh, really? Is it strange?
Isn't it strange?
Maya is a very strong-willed character right from the beginning, as is the person that plays Maya. Froy brings like this nice energy in a good way and always smiling. And that's the dynamic we wanted because we didn't want that friction, butting heads in any way, shape, or form. So you understood why they worked as a couple in the first place.
You were trying to protect us. You were trying to protect us, okay?
They get to a certain point where things get really, really bad. There's a conversation between them at that point that one would think under the circumstances would almost be impossible to pull off. And yet they did it seamlessly.
Marry me. Will you marry me?
Yes, of course.
You see the sacrifices they're willing to make, and I think that just shows how much they love each other.
Okay, and 3, 2, 1, action.
I love stunts. In fact, the stunt coordinator and I had many a conversation about how I wanted to do every single stunt that was in this film. There are times where it's safer, absolutely, to have a stunt double come in and do things. But when it's possible, having me come in and do it, which was more challenging than I thought it would be, but I'm so controlling of my performance, and I don't want to hand that over to anybody.
I would be like this on the ground if you're holding to my clothing. You know what I mean?
She has an incredible dedication and a real sense of detail, but there was nothing easy about making this movie. It was in the woods, it was in the cold, it was nasty. She was as good as I've ever worked with.
We understood and we communicated this was an extremely demanding role, not only emotionally, but physically. Her passion, not only her talent, but also I think her experience with stunts and physicality showed that she could do it all.
Walking onto a Rennie Harlin set and doing stunts is so intimidating. I'm such a big fan. Cliffhanger is such an iconic film with so many massive stunts, and I'd heard that a lot of the actors had done them themselves in that. And I was determined to make Rennie proud. The first time I did a stunt for Rennie, I'll never forget, he said, okay, we can move on after one take. And I looked at Courtney and I was like, I think I just made it.
Perfect.
Yeah, I love when Rennie's happy.
I can't take it.
Stupid. baby on the treetop.
It was always intended to be character-driven horror. You know, a lot of horror movies, it's a fun romp, right? Freddy, Jason, fun romps. But the real horror, to me, was everybody perceives a home invasion as something that they could potentially experience. And I think that's what differentiates it. I always said, we're going to pick this line of reality, and we must always stay there.
We want the audience to feel like they want to tell the characters, get out of there, but not go so far that they feel like the characters are stupid for not getting out of there.
We really tried to make this feel as based in reality as possible within the heightened reality circumstances that we created.
In this trilogy, you follow one character all the time from the beginning to the end, but at the same time, every movie forms its own journey.
The movies are made to each have their own cliffhanger.
You can be satisfied by movie 1, but you'll want to come back for movies 2 and 3 to learn more.
We hope that people are going to have like a fun conversation. Well, what's going to happen? Where's this going to go? The audience will be thrilled and people have a good time.
We have to figure out how we get him on his back. It would look great if he crawls first, then when they are in their not so close positions, he could be on his knees. And cut! Ah, very good.
When you approach a movie like this, you want to make the best movie, in this case trilogy, in the world. You can't leave a single stone unturned during your journey. As a filmmaker, if you're serious, you have to care about everything, and you want the best cameraman and the team that is going to support you. This is a chance of a lifetime to tell a complex psychological story and do something special. So it's reflected in every choice of the color of the sets, every choice of camera and lighting.
We wanted to give audience members really highly elevated horror. You know, not campy horror, but really smart, really raw, really grounded in truth. And Rennie, working closely with his DP, they really created the color palette, the feel, the lighting, the mood, and the eeriness.
They told me that the movie was going to be directed by Ronnie Harlin, and that got my attention as Rennie and I discussed the 2008 movie Strangers, and we agreed that, okay, the first movie is great, but this is something else. This is not a slasher. This is not a gore film. This is suspense.
It's supposed to be, you know, very much on the realm of reality. And to everybody that came on, Rennie, everybody on the crew, from moment number one, I always said, we're never going to cross that line of reality so that the fantasy is broken for the audience. We must always stay there.
The movie starts very normal and feeling very safe, and the grass is green and the clothes look normal. It looks like just normal life. And then in the course of the first movie, the colors start changing. In a subtle way, we want the audience to feel through the color and light how everything just starts tightening and tightening and tightening through this kind of dark tunnel until we are just installing this feeling of dread and growing paranoia. This is something that we put a lot of thinking and a lot of time into in creating the color palette and the certain darkness and brightness of scenes.
You've got the camera enhancing the moment and, making you feel something.
What I try to do in the movie is, through the type of shots that I chose and the lighting and creating an atmosphere where that paranoia would be there all the time.
What happened?
There's someone standing right there. You're wearing a mask.
The horror really lies in that feeling of the gradual progression of that paranoia and having that end up being backed up by reality. And I think that's part of the big appeal of these movies.
Civilization. Venus, Oregon. I bet the people who live here are really happy.
In creating the town of Venus, everything has to feel super authentic, super real. And I think that adds also to the eeriness of it.
This was built. This is a crazy thing to have built.
We wanted this raw feel from the very beginning, so we tried to make the diner as gritty as possible. The diner is actually a practical location, which we found in North Bratislava, and it was much more polished and sleek, if you want. We just built the exterior. We tried to make it like this is not the nicest diner where you can stop and have something to eat. Adi Kuralea, the production designer, he did a great job in using textures and all the Americana imaginary that we already know. So I think that was a very detailed work from his part.
It looks cute. Think it has electricity?
Probably not.
Most of the story happens in this house. It's not a haunted house by any means, but at the same time, it's almost like a living and breathing organism.
It took us a while to find the right exterior for the house because we were trying to find like a good location and then build the house there, but we couldn't find the location near Bratislava to have enough character, and it wasn't worth it to build a house in those forests. So we found this house and that we really liked. It didn't have the scale that we wanted, but it was very mysterious location. Since the exterior of the house was smaller and you only see it mainly at night, we decided to make a two-story house and make it bigger on the interior of the set in an abandoned warehouse outside Bratislava, because we knew that we were going to spend like a decent amount of time in that house for movie one. We wanted to have a big living room because the main action takes place there, especially the ending of movie one, which I think Adi, the production designer, he did a great job.
The art department has created these sets that feel very real, balancing the feeling of like you're in your home, this place that's supposed to feel comfortable, with like the plethora of dead animals hung up on the wall and the skeletons and just like a slightly off feeling.
This house has a raised foundation.
What?
Crawl space.
I remember one scene that the actors, Maya and Ryan, they are crawling on this crawling space and underneath the house. That was a very, very tough sequence, especially for the actors, because literally they have like less than 4 feet from the ground. So we needed to go very real on that scene. And then we have a crane shot that we boom up and then we find the pinup girl. So we needed to tie both the basement and the house at the same time, and we built a specific part of the set just because of that shot. So we connect our protagonists with the bad guys.
The surrounding forest where they ultimately escape becomes this very hostile and scary environment. We don't need the audience to jump out of their seats and go like, oh my God, what a spooky forest. But psychologically, we hope that we are experiencing a very scary, very bleak and threatening world that Maya is going through.
This nightmare feel of the forest is very important. It's another character in this movie. And I felt that we needed to have a bigger scope, more cinematic in a way. Renny and I agreed about the aspect ratio, about shooting with anamorphic lenses, all those things that can give you the more cinematic patina to it. And from my perspective, when you shoot with anamorphic lenses like I did, suddenly you are telling the audience, okay, this is something different.
Ryan, go now!
The first Strangers, it's more about the couple, but as the movie progresses, this is Maya's journey, and the camera follows her all the time during the movie.
One of the sort of leading principles for me was that it is seen through Maya's, our main protagonist's, eyes. Even her relationship with her fiancé, her experience of this town, her experience of the horror, the terror. I try to create a feeling where the audience is her all the time, and that affects how you shoot the scenes. For me, a lot of the language had to do with extreme close-ups of her eyes and really sort of going inside her head and her experience and how it feels to be her. I hope that that will come through for the audience, and when they sit in the theater, they would feel like they are her.
They live together, the actors and the camera, but there's so many things that you don't even think about that create that.
We wanted to live more in the shot, not so many cuts. Then you are in Maya's face and you don't know what's going on, because again, this is Maya's journey and working with Mads. I usually set the 3 cameras before she comes to set, but I always leave a certain margin of freedom for her to provide something else, and I think with Rennie we agreed that we needed to have that because this is her movie. She was my guide in terms of, okay, let's see what she does, and then let's place the cameras.
And then I don't even know if he, I mean, maybe when she makes it, he can come towards me, but I always imagined having that hand up here for this like cool shot of the nail coming out and me kind of like crying and going down.
Movie 1, you are discovering the strangers little by little, and it's a progression. At the beginning you don't see them at all. We were playing with reflections in the mirrors and shadows, and then suddenly you see pieces of them. You have to dig in the image just to know more, and sometimes you have like a long shot and the bad guy's in the mirror and you don't notice it at the very beginning, but he's there. Or you have a establisher of the house, but Dollface, it's in one of the windows as a silhouette. So all these things add a lot of suspense to the movie. And then at the end of the movie 1, they are fully exposed. The best call was using the real actors for the strangers, you know, because sometimes when you have a guy with a mask, okay, let's do this with a double and that's it. No, it doesn't work like that. The physicality of it, even if they are in a mask, you know that is them, you can feel that. And that's also more scary.
Where's Maya?
We wanted this movie to be more suspenseful. We wanted this raw feel and suffer with the actors, and I think once you see the movie, everything fits.
They're really creating such beautiful images. The actors are giving incredible performances, and so I truly believe that it's going to take hold of a whole new audience.
Do you know what today is?
Today is the 3rd day of our 3-day road trip across the country.
Or our 5-year anniversary. What a cool little town. I actually like this so much better than a hotel. I'll bet the people who live here are really happy.
Tough crowd, right?
Hi.
Hi.
Do you hear that?
Hear what?
The silence. It's nice. Is Tamara here?
No.
I think you have the wrong home. That was weird.
You are the messiest eater on the planet.
'Cause you're here.